So personal injury lawyers are not like restaurants, right? It's not like ordering Thai food where you might type in Thai food near me and then kind of choose which place you're going to go to or order from based on how close it is to you. At the same time, it matters whether you hire a personal injury lawyer who knows something about the local laws and community where you live or where you were injured. So today we're going to talk about that. Is personal injury law like ordering from a restaurant or going to a store where proximity sort of matters, or is it kind of different? So the first thing you need to know is that the law is very specialized and very localized. State laws are massively different and meaningfully different in personal injury cases. Things like the statute of limitation, things like the available damages, sometimes even the causes of action that you can bring vary wildly from state to state. Sometimes there are local ordinances. For example, Metro Nashville has certain codes that maybe the city of Memphis doesn't have, or Knoxville doesn't have, or the town of Franklin doesn't have. And so you got to look at that kind of granularity in your case. So understanding that, you can kind of see that a local lawyer who knows these specific local things would have an advantage in your case over someone who wasn't local. Another reason hiring a local lawyer might be a good idea is that they will know the local rules of court. They might know the judges. They might routinely appear in front of them. And they might know opposing counsel who's likely to be on that case. They might have a relationship, through a course of dealing with them, working with them on many other cases that could help you kind of, smooth out your case, get it resolved maybe sooner than somebody else would. As an example, here's a story about where knowing the community, knowing the local judge really helps. We had a big trucking case in a rural county that we're not from, but we knew a lawyer there. We had a big motion in this case that was very important. And for that motion, we called up a local lawyer there that we knew, small town guy. I think his dad might have been the mayor, or maybe it might have been a judge. I can't remember, but a local guy with deep roots. We associated him on the case on an hourly basis for that hearing. So we had like the local guy who knows everyone on our side of this case just for that day, right? Paid him an hourly rate. Just please sit there in the courtroom with us while we argue this so that we can present as like we know this local community. Now, I'm not saying we got the result because we had the local guy, but hey, who knows? It didn't hurt. Another reason it's a good idea to hire a local lawyer is that you won't have to pay for their travel time or their expenses going back and forth. For example, if you're injured in Nashville, it might make sense to hire a Nashville lawyer over a Memphis one because all that travel time, hotels, if they go to trial in your case, for example, will increase the expenses and you'll ultimately have to pay that back. And another reason that it might make sense to hire a local lawyer is that you can reach them. You can go to their office. You can see them. You can go there and like demand to talk to someone if things go wrong or if you're not happy. Whereas if you hire some lawyer hundreds of miles away, can't really do that. And you won't have a kind of personal interaction with them, face-to-face meeting if you want that. Now, at the same time, a local lawyer may not be the best. We have gotten cases several times where specifically the client does not want a local lawyer because they're afraid. Maybe it's a small town. It's a good old boy system. Everybody knows everybody, and they're a little bit afraid they're not going to get real justice unless they go out of the community. Another reason is that there just may not be that level of specialization. For example, in Tennessee, the legislature has made it really difficult to bring medical malpractice cases, and you really do need to hire a law firm that does that kind of work routinely. And you may not have a local medical malpractice lawyer in every town in Tennessee. You probably do need to hire someone out of Nashville or Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga, one of the bigger areas, because you're just not going to get that kind of specialization everywhere across the state. And that's by design. The legislature wants there to be fewer medical malpractice cases, which means there's fewer medical malpractice lawyers. And really the ones doing it are the ones that know how to do it. So there's not one clear answer, right? Should you hire a local lawyer? Should you hire the big city lawyer who's not from your community? Might depend on the kind of case you got. Might depend on the kind of evidence that you're going to need to collect. For example, we had a traffic accident case where the client calls and it's like, I know where that happened. It's literally up the street from my office. I know exactly this intersection. I could walk there and take pictures. That's just kind of an advantage, right? If you hired someone out of Memphis, maybe they're on Google Maps or something and they're, having to do it, but they don't know the area the way that we do and can't just go there and do that. So in a car wreck case, that might matter. The evidence, the scene, accessing the scene might be important. In other cases, it's less important. If you go to a rural hospital and you're misdiagnosed with something and it's a medical malpractice case, then that's not as important. We don't need to go to that hospital and see the place to know what happened. It's going to be a case about the medical records. And in that situation, it doesn't matter as much that we have access to the actual scene of the injury. So it just depends. And I think anyone that says always hire a local lawyer, well, that they may just be talking their book because they spent a lot of time getting a lot of Google reviews or something, but it's not necessarily the case. There are good reasons to hire a local lawyer, and there are good reasons not to. How do you choose a good personal injury lawyer? Well, we're in the age of AI now, and I've seen some things like this video right now. This is real. I'm a real person. This is my real voice. There's no AI on this. There's technology now that lawyers can train AI bots, AI video generators on their face and on their mannerisms and on their tone of voice. And then they can make that AI bot say whatever they want. So they can write the most clear-cut marketing script, and they can have the bot deliver it. And it looks like a lawyer, but it's not the lawyer. It's an AI version of the lawyer. And they're even doing this for other languages. Candidly, I don't speak Spanish, but you could make a video now where I'm just talking in fluent Spanish. And this is kind of crazy, right? Because if you're the client on the other side of that, you're like, oh, I saw this guy on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and he can speak fluent Spanish, but he can't. So it's almost like fraud in the advertising. Choose a real lawyer. Choose a lawyer who is not an AI video bot speaking fake Spanish, because that's where the technology is now. And because of that, right, because it's getting harder to trust content like this, that's where real reputation and trust matters. So ask other lawyers. If you happen to know a lawyer, ask a lawyer, hey, who's a good personal injury lawyer? Read the reviews, actually read them. Look for past results. Look for evidence that this law firm or lawyer has done something like your case in the past successfully. So it's not as simple as typing in personal injury lawyer near me and, just picking the first result. It's not like ordering Thai food from DoorDash. You're hiring a lawyer for a serious matter. May make sense to put a little more effort into the research and the background to make sure you're making the right choice, to make sure it even matters whether your lawyer is local. Most of the time it will. Most of the time it will make sense to hire a local lawyer, but there are cases where it doesn't make that much sense, specifically really specialized areas of the law like medical malpractice or civil rights. There are areas where it makes sense to get out of your community because you might be, a good old boy network or some sort of home cooking, and hiring outside of that community might make sense and give you an advantage. So if you're interested in learning more about how to choose a personal injury lawyer, watch this next video.